Did you know that there is a 76% chance that your child has a dangerous virus? Toddlers especially are susceptible to a disease that you might end up wishing they had. It's called curiosity, or as I like to call it, the Y virus. It seems as if these children don't have any control over how many Y's come out of their mouths. Why is the sky blue? Why does the light turn on? Why is your eye twitching like that? No matter how many answers we provide, they keep on asking until we can't take it anymore. We hush them up or distract them, as if asking questions were somehow taboo, something they shouldn't do. Once the cure for curiosity has been administered, suddenly, life is peaceful again. Can you hear that? Silence. They say it's golden. And 13 years later, these same toddlers, cured from their annoying disease, sit quietly in their high school history classrooms. No more questions. That should be great, right? But things start to look confusing for them. All these dates and events sit right next to each other on the timeline, but supposedly they are completely unrelated. There's no synthesis between cause and effect. We know who, what, when, and where. The 4 W's. But aren't there 5? Specifically in America, our history is taught with such a narrow focus that students can't possibly grasp the big picture. As historian Thomas Bender states, somehow the world is everything but us. Our students learn from a strictly American point of view. They only hear about the things that happened in our beloved country. But did our predecessors live in a solitary country? Did they only interact with other Americans and disregard all other nations? No. We teach American history to create a national identity, when in fact, that identity can only be created in respect to international relationships. Please don't misunderstand me. Local history and cultural heritage are very important. However, they cannot be understood when separated from their global context. One of my professors this year, Dr. Bradley Brugeretti, and several of his coworkers are dedicated to teaching history using a complete, comprehensive method. They call it global history. These professors have decided it's high time we started answering the dreaded 5th W. Why? Wait a minute. I thought we rid ourselves of that tedious question years ago. But it turns out that the question so many of us squashed out of our toddlers is the question that is crucial to understanding our past. History doesn't make itself. People make history. People with motives. And the key to discovering these motives is the one word that most of us cringe to hear. Maybe the Y virus wasn't so bad after all. Having worked in childcare for 2 years now, I've met many young children, and trust me, they've got the Y virus, and they've got it bad. Spending so much time around these kids has brought to my attention the passion for learning and discovering that children are born with. So many things that you and I might take for granted, they constantly question and explore. Can you imagine that a 16-year-old could be sitting in a rocking chair, only thinking about how comfortable it is, but a 3-year-old walks up and asks why it rocks? How insightful is that? And that got me thinking, how many things do I know that I just take for granted? How many opportunities have I missed to learn and discover the wonder in this beautiful world? History has been a big gap in my life because even though I read the textbooks and I learned the facts, I was still confused. I didn't see the point. So what? Stuff happened. Maybe this is because I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't see the connections, the natural cause and effect. Dr. Brugeretti's global history has greatly helped me understand it in a new light. There's one specific event that has always annoyed me: Christopher Columbus's discovery of the Americas. For some reason, something didn't seem right. Sailing in general was no Sunday drive, and because nobody had sailed west before, he was sailing blind. Columbus must have had a powerful motive to attempt something so risky and so uncertain. If you ask why Columbus sailed in 1492, you'll find that the Silk Road, a crucial trade route to Asia, had been cut off by the capture of Constantinople in 1453. He sailed west to restore contact with Asia. We all know that he never actually made it. But who would have thought that the capture of one city could lead to the discovery of a continent? Is that not fantastic? Another issue that I've had with history is slavery. Everyone talks about how awful it was, but they neglect to explain why it remained legal for so long in America, longer than any other world power at the time. If you ask why slavery lasted for so long in America, you'll find that slavery was an enormous economic investment. American slaveholders depended so much upon the slaves that they purchased that to outlaw slavery would have caused a market crash. Despite how wrong it was to enslave others, our beloved country may not exist the way that it is today if slavery had been abolished sooner. And those examples don't even scratch the surface. There are so many more circumstances in which asking questions has impeccable value. These revelations have led me to realize that when we purge our desire for understanding and train people not to ask questions, we sacrifice our opportunities to experience the fullness of our past, the underlying reasons behind it all. Global history opens a new door to the world around us. There is so much value to learning history this way. It creates a synthesis between cause and effect and answers all 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Plus, it has been scientifically proven that when your brain makes connections between seemingly unrelated events, you're more likely to remember what you learn. Yet another benefit of global history is that it breeds a global worldview. If this method were used in our schools and our homes, this next generation would have a more complete understanding of how our world works. They would have a firm grasp on the ways in which the people of our world have always interacted with each other. They would start to see beyond their own world and realize the deeply rooted connection between their world and someone else's. Too often, I see people who are consumed only by their immediate surroundings. They close themselves off from the big picture, the global perspective. Their lives are devoid of questions, they aren't curious, and they aren't happy. Maybe because, like me, before I started learning global history, they're confused and frustrated. The answers they're looking for constantly escape their grasp because they have forgotten how to ask the questions. It sounds like a good dose of the Y virus is in order. We should cherish the curiosity that we are born with and use it to adopt a global worldview, because this worldview not only explains our past, but it also determines our future. It is unfortunate that some of us are led to believe that our actions don't affect the world around us, because they most certainly do. What will your next door neighbor do when you smile and wave at them? What might someone in DC do when they hear about how you've inspired your community? What might a young adult in another country do when they read about the changes that you have made here in America? With the simplest action, you could be the answer to somebody's why. On the other hand, you could also ask, how will events in Nigeria today affect me tomorrow? In what way will a Syrian's decisions manifest in my life? Don't remain blind to the things happening in the world, because when we shut our eyes to others' ability to change our world, we simultaneously lose our own ability to change someone else's. Even though things like Ebola, terrorism, or poverty might seem far away, they do affect you. Be prepared. Think globally. Know the answers to your whys. And most of all, be infected by curiosity. Especially now with social media, the power to contact someone halfway around the world in just seconds, and the potential of getting there in less than a day, a global worldview is more important than ever. So I urge you, catch the Y virus. Spread it to your family, to your friends, to your children, and let this global worldview infect the history that we are making today. Yes, your children have a dangerous virus. They have the Y virus. But is that such a bad thing?